It's time to duel! So yes, today we're gonna be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! In honor of Duel Masters. So recently, I've been busy with Duel Masters, reliving the good old days when I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And I guess I'll start from the beginning. So the first time I ever got into Yu-Gi-Oh! Was in 6th grade. I remember it was like I moved to a new school, I didn't know anyone, and I was bored as hell. So I saw one of my future friends, Jack, playing with our boy Nick, and I was like, damn, that seems kind of interesting. So I just remember watching, and then my friend Jack gave me this deck. And it had the Red Eyes Black Dragon as the strongest monster. It was like a 2,400 attack monster. So I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. And I used to watch the TV show, and so there's this character called Joey, and that was like his ace monster, the Red Eyes. So I was like, oh yeah, we're good to go. So me and my friend Jack started dueling. This is my first ever duel. And I managed to get the Red Eyes Black Dragon as I treat you monsters, and then I end my turn. I set it like a trap. And so then my boy Jack, he'd be licking his lips and smiling. And so he pulls out this deck called Utopia. And so he draws a card, right? And he just starts like smiling, and then he summons a monster. I'm like, okay, cool. And then he special summons. I'm like, the fuck's a special summon? And then he kept doing it over and over, and then he made this monster, and it was unaffected by everything. And it also had 5,000 attack. So I was like, well, this just got a little dicey. And then I didn't know at first that it was unaffected by trap. So I activated a trap, and then you just see Jack. He's just grinning. He's grinning from ear to ear because he knows I can't do anything, and he just destroys me. I'm talking about absolutely just lights me up. Like a game of whack-a-mole. He's just bonking me on the head. I'm just slapping me around. Jack, please help. Yeah. So that was my first ever duel with Jack. Showed no mercy to me. So then we flash forward. I'm like trying to fix my deck, and Jack's been clapping me for months. And then I finally decided to go to like my local card shop. So I go in, and there's like a bunch of like teenagers and stuff. I was like in 6th grade, so I was a little nervous, and I had all these like quarters and stuff, and all the cards were like in the bin, and you would go there and you'd like slide through, and each card was like maybe 50 cents or like $1 or something. And so I was looking through, crafting my deck, and then some of the guys like gave me some cards, and I was like, ooh. Okay, so I got upgraded pretty nicely. So then I took that deck, and then I combined it with the structure deck, and it was the chaos structure deck. So then my first ever deck was chaos, and it would be like, so the way it worked was that it had a light attribute and dark attribute monsters, and once they're in the graveyard, you can banish a light and dark to special summon from your hand. So I'm like, oh, I get to finally special summon. Let's go. And with that deck, I finally managed to get like some wins against Jack. And then by that time, I think we got my friend Connor in on it, and he played this deck called yugioh. And they were like a bunch of machine monsters that they would just like combine together to make big monsters, and they would just like exist summon. So then, flash forward a bit later, my chaos deck is actually like good now. Like it was like really good, and I finally upgraded it to where I can destroy everybody in our at school. And so Jack had this deck called, I forgot what it was called. I think it was like a pendulum deck. But anyways, you would summon them in defense mode every time to stall. And so I'd be like, what am I gonna do against this damn deck? It was very annoying because he would do it every turn, and he would just set up a defense. And he would keep specially summoning them at every turn. You couldn't get rid of them. And so that was his deck, and then I managed to start winning more and more. And then I started winning consecutively, like in a month. Like I had like a whole month of like not losing. It was actually insane. And then Jack eventually beat me after I changed a little bit of my deck, and I was like salty. I was like, damn, he beat me. So that was that. And then I finally transitioned into like the new meta, and it was like the Arc 5 days, where the main decks that were like in the meta were Clifforts, which is a pendulum deck, Shadol's, a fusion deck, Burning Abyss, which is like an Xyz deck. Then we had Yang Zing's, which was a synchro deck, and that was the deck I mained right there. And the Yang Zings, I was at my peak whenever I was playing Yang Zings. So the Yang Zings, what they would do is that they would float. So if you destroy them, they would special summon another one from the deck. And so then you would use those cards to synchro summon, and then the synchro summon monster would gain buffs. So it would get like 500 attack, or it would be immune to like spells and traps and stuff. And so then I think I became like the most competitive I've ever been. I was going to my locals, and I won like 2 tournaments in a row, which was crazy because I think at that time I was a freshman in high school. So I was just clapping like these adults who were playing like super meta decks, and I was just playing like a deck that was like very strong, but it wasn't like the best deck. And then we had a school tournament, and then that was wild. So I clapped my first 2 opponents, and then I went up against this guy named Connor. Not my friend Connor, but a different Connor. And he was playing Shadol, so I was like, alright, let's see how this goes. So he opens up Construct, which is a card that just basically, if you fight it, it just destroys your monster. Like, no matter what, if it's special summoned. So it was a little bit dicey, but I've never gotten a bad hand in that deck until that game. So I opened up with like a bunch of spells and traps. I remember I was just thinking to myself, why? Because this was like the final guy I had to beat, and then I was in the finals. So then I activated this card called Skill Drain, and it negates all face-up monsters' effects on the field. But I also had a monster that whenever I synchro summoned, it negated, like, it became immune to traps. So the idea was to play that card and then still synchro summon, and then my monsters were immune to traps, so it didn't activate. But anyways, it got to a point to where we forgot that card was on the field, and Connor like beat me. But then like we all noticed that Skill Drain was on the field. And this was like an official tournament too, so we were like, oh shit. Because like now that duel was like kind of bull. So we were sitting there and being like, what do we do now? And I remember I was just like, yeah, you know, you're a senior, you won't get this chance. And so I just gave him the duel. And yeah, so that was that tournament. And then flash forward, now we're in the Link era. And then the Link era happened. It made it to where every extra deck monster wasn't able to like be summoned. You had to like link summon and make like link zones. So everyone was mad, including me. I was mad too, because it kind of like made your deck null or void. And it was also at that point like Yu-Gi-Oh started getting into very combo centric, and so people would go for like 5 or 10 minutes setting up your board, and then you wouldn't be able to do anything. So it was like you set up your entire field, you have like 6 monsters, 5 to 6 because the extra monster zones, and it's either A, you out combo them but they're gonna have like a crap ton of negates, or B, you have a bunch of negates of your own and you stop them from setting up your board. And if you don't, you lose. So that's kind of what Yu-Gi-Oh turned into, and so like I kind of died off and stopped playing it. But then, flash forward, they nerfed the Link Summon mechanic and Pendulum mechanic, and so now you're able to just kind of play like Yu-Gi-Oh, but like the damage was done. Yu-Gi-Oh just became a game to where you have to go first, set up your board, and if you go second, you lose. So yeah, that's kind of what died out, what Yu-Gi-Oh killed it for me. And so now I'm playing it again because of Duel Masters, because it's going hard. And the ban list is different too, so like there's different cards and stuff. So yeah, that has been my Yu-Gi-Oh experience. But now I've been playing a bunch of Duel Masters, and I've just been reliving the experience. So yeah, just wanted to share that with you guys. See you guys later.